Hello everyone, this is Dave, joined by Chris.
Hey.
And we are continuing on talking Ticket to Ride.
And here we go.
Here we go. Ticket to Ride Nordic countries. Alan Moon has heard the cry of people who like to play at lower player counts and came up with a box set that's specifically for 2 to 3 players only, dealing with all of those countries up north. Where they like to have a lot of fun. Some interesting things with this one. Chris is going to talk about the rules because there's some interesting tweaks and in his thoughts. So the big change with this one is it's got its own set of train cards, which, if you look at them, they all have snow on them for winter wonderland fun. And it's a full set of cards that you could actually choose to play with any of your other maps during the winter time if you want to have a thematic experience.
Yes.
So, Chris, first of all, get it out of the way. Talk about this map.
This is my favorite map. Out of all the box sets that are out, it is my favorite. So let's get started. First thing you'll notice is tunnels are back.
Okay, we've got the tunnels.
Those are from
Europe,
I believe. Then we have ferries, again, from Europe. Mm-hmm. They've made an appearance again. Let's see. When you try to claim just colored routes, the rule is you cannot use locomotives, which I'll get to in a second. And then the only time you can get or use locomotives, as you can see on this card.
Let's see, I'll zoom in here. And it tells you right here that it
shows you exactly when and where you can use it.
Yeah, it can be used only for ferries or tunnels in this game. And there's an exception for the locomotive that it can be used as a substitute for another card in one of the routes that Chris will talk about.
Right. So that's the only way you could use locomotives are on ferries and tunnels. You follow those same rules as the tunnels before.
Right, with the drawing the 3 cards up.
Exactly. Same rules follow. You have to play that many color plus any locomotives with the ferries. And when you get to draw cards, you are allowed to take 2 wild cards from the face-up 5. The same rule applies when you refill this market. If there are ever 3 wilds, everything wipes. So I think that's, aside from this long route over here on the edge of the map.
Yeah, there is a one that's over here that is 9 spaces, and it's worth 27 points.
Yeah, it's a monster.
And there's a special rule for this particular one only, which is that they all have to be the same color because it's a gray route. However, you can substitute any 4 cards for 1 color, and you can use locomotives in there. So, for example, if this was going to be all red tickets, let's say I had 7 red tickets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I still need this. I could use 8 more cards. Correct. To do that. And I could put locomotives in there too. Locomotives, like he said, cannot be used as wild cards. So I couldn't use 7 of these and 2 locomotives. That does not work in this one because this is considered a regular route. Again, the locomotives have a restriction on there.
And I think in general, I think that's about it. I mean, you got a huge stack of some very pretty looking destination cards, which you should be used to by now.
Yes, but in this game, when you draw destination tickets and you're looking at them, you have a choice to take them then. If you do not take them, they do not go to the bottom of the stack. They're out of the game.
They will get discarded.
Yeah, it's either you see it or they're gone.
Very many games that I have played, there have been less than 5 at the end of the game because everybody has been discarding them like crazy.
Mm-hmm. So not really, there's just a few. What they did with this one was kind of tweaked what was already there. There's really nothing new in this one at all. Just some changes to the rules. Impressions on this one, Chris?
As I said earlier, I should have probably just not said it, but it is my favorite boxed set. Not only because it's 2 to 3. I like playing higher player counts, but sometimes you just want to play a very cutthroat 2 to 3 player map, and sometimes you can't do that. This is a good example of where you can do that. And there's a lot of different other reasons. It's a lot quicker, which the speeding is nice. You can get through 2 games in like half hour maybe, depending on how fast you play. Overall, it's a nice map to start with when you're just getting into the 2 to 3 player maps.
Yeah, my first impression with this one is I enjoy it quite a bit. This is one that I will play with my daughter Rebecca. We will sit down and, like you said, the speed of this one is super fast. I mean, we are knocking out a game in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And when you're playing with 2 players, the double routes are closed. Those are only open on a 3-player on this one. And there's quite a bit of stuff going on here. It's not an overly crowded map because this is specifically for lower player counts. But here's the interesting thing that I think what makes this work is the tweaks on the rules, especially when it comes to the locomotive cards.
Exactly.
That one change in the rule changes how you play the game and makes it adapt well for the lower player count. And I think that it was important for them to come up with a lower player count map because, as you've heard in our previous discussions on the box sets we've done so far, they all seem to play the best at 4 and 5 players, and they are really weak at the lower player counts because there's so much room and different things to do. Well, here we tighten up geographical areas, and there's larger, there's not as many spaces. So 2 players, you've got that conflict that you get accustomed to in the other games at the higher player counts.
And I honestly think, personally for me, out of all the 2 to 3 player maps that are out currently right now, I think this is the tightest of the ones that I've played.
Yeah, and this one is it doesn't really work very well in trying to establish a backbone through the middle.
You really can. No.
Some of the other maps, like you said, you can come up with a strategy. This one, surprisingly to me, I find very challenging because you have on this one whole side of the map, if you look over here, it's all ferries and tunnels the whole way up. So you're going to have to be collecting locomotives. You're going to have to get a certain number of cards. You're going to have to be prepared to deal with the tunnels. And you heard me say before, I'm not really wild about the tunnels in Europe. This one, I think the tunnels I think it's better implemented in Nordic countries. I still like to have control over what I'm doing, but I think because you lower the player counts and stuff like that, the tunnles. I'm more accepting of the tunnels on this map than I am in Europe.
And that is fair to say.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, you look at this one whole side of the map, and you really have to be prepared for that. And then you have this big monster route in the upper corner up here with 9. This is going to take a lot of work to do this. So it could be a race to get that because 27 points is a significant amount of points
huge.
on here. So you have to be mindful of that, balancing out, trying to collect cards to do that, yet getting your trains on the board because you are going to need to get your trains on the board because if you look over on the right side of the map, all these little cities, this is this little section right over here. And let me zoom in. And if you look, there's 4 different cities, all of them connected by one space.
Of different colors.
Luckily you have this diagonal there in the middle, but still, it's kind of tough. I mean, you take this one out here, a couple of these things, and you're going to want to be able to get these, or you can just be a real jerk and claim them all, and use up your trains, and nobody can get into there. Would have a hard time connecting them. So, it's interesting the way that this map is laid out.
Definitely, for sure.
So I'm trying to think of like this one. I like the presentation. The colors are pretty cool too. This one is purple, white, and black only for your players, which kind of matches the background of this here. We've got some like the presentation of the board. We've got a Viking ship down in the corner here. We've got looks like Eskimos like way up north. So definitely lends to this Arctic feel for the game. I love this.
It's very bright.
Yeah. So this is your favorite. This is your favorite map.
Out of the big box sets.
Out of the box sets. Yeah, and I think that for me, for lower player counts, this is the map that I would choose to play for 2 to 3 players over one that we'll be talking about, which is going to be Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be coming up in the future. But definitely, if you do not have this one, and you're looking for something to play at lower player counts, this is like a no-brainer to pick this one up. Like I said, you can use the train cars with the other expansion maps because it is a full set of trains. And a lot of times they say you must have. I think you could use the train cards. You'd still have to have either you'd have to have Europe
or
USA or Germany, so that you have the sets of trains to play on larger maps. But if you never play more than 3 players, you could actually get away with using stuff from here. Oh, maybe not. I might be wrong, because this is there's only 40 trains in here instead of 45.
40. I just remembered that. Yeah.
My fault on that. So you have to forgive me for that. I gave the wrong information, but you can still use the train cards in other games. You just need to have one of those other sets to play other maps because we don't have enough trains. So strike that, my mistake. So what were you going to say, Chris?
No, I just, right after you realized that, I was going to mention you only have 40. So the game does go a lot quicker, as we said. So you have to be mindful, because the end game trigger is still the same with all the other maps. It's 2 or less. So you always have to keep an eye on your opponents, because you never know when that last train's going to hit the table.
Mm-hmm. So, and then at the end of the game, there is a bonus for the Globetrotter, which would be the most completed destination tickets. It's going to give you 10 points at the end of the game, so there are rewards for trying to complete a lot of them. And again, you can generate some pretty cool amount of points on here. You've got some hefty routes. You know, like I said, you got that 9 route there, but you've got some that are 6 spaces. So you're definitely going to have some fun playing this one. So. Definitely. Yeah, so for me, if you're looking for a 2 to 3 player map, this is a no-brainer one to have to add to your collection. So that is Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries. So this is pretty much like wrapping up. This is the last of the big boxes that we're talking about in this series. You can want to go back, and if you're interested in the other ones, you're going to want to go back and look at our ones for the USA, for Europe, America, and Germany. We have one other big box in the series that we'll be talking about in a future episode, which is going to be Rails and Sails, and we'll also be covering all of the individual maps from the smaller map pack expansion, so you're going to want to check for those too. So, all right, that's it for now. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye.